Okay, so I want to start this off by apologizing to you for dragging you to see Wonka.
Stop it, please, I beg you!
I know how much you did not want to see this. I love the original film so much. I had to see it, and you rallied.
I really did not want to see it.
You're going to love this. Just love it.
I guess it's time to change the world.
Especially when you found out, you didn't even realize until you sat down and you were like, this is a fucking musical.
The first song started, and I leaned over to you and I said, "This is a fucking musical?"
I thought you were gonna get up and leave.
I should have.
Stop, don't come back.
I don't mind musicals as much as you do. There's quite a few old ones that I like, but like modern musicals, garbage.
Well, see,
Like nobody writes lyrics and music the way they used to.
no, even though I hate musicals, I can still tell back in the day that there was talent involved
Oh,
in
sure, yeah.
creating those songs. Even the original Willy Wonka, yeah, it's a musical. There's some musical numbers in there. A lot of it's just like little musical interludes going from one scene to the next.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call it like a full-on musical. This movie is. And whoever wrote the fucking lyrics to these songs in the movie, they must have gone to the same school that modern day screenwriters have gone to.
Yeah.
Because it was the same level of amateur hour, you know?
Right.
The songs sucked, they didn't land. It's the kind of songs where they're trying to make things rhyme, but they can't.
Yeah.
So they just make up a fucking
Yeah, they make up a word that's
so
like
it can-
theater
yeah.
bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah, this movie it felt like a theater kid movie.
Right, whereas the original, the songs were so seamlessly woven into the film. Like when you think back on it, you could even forget at times that it's kind of a musical.
I forgot. I've seen the movie many times.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it in a while, but
Yeah.
I forgot.
But this one, it's just like, oh, fuck. Now we're getting into another song here, another song here, another song here. And there's like, they're just all throughout the entire film.
yeah.
And it doesn't feel cohesive.
Well, and
they
this-
all sound the same, every freaking song, until of course they get to
And the songs,
last song.
My main problem with musicals is that you have a story going, and then you have to interrupt your fucking story to have some dumb musical number, and it's like I don't care. I just want to see what happens next. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're a good musical, they will integrate the story into the song.
Right.
Which is what the original does.
perfectly, yeah.
This did not. This was definitely let's pause the story to have this bullshit musical
Yeah,
number.
yeah. I have
And
no
it sucked.
idea why this movie was made. Did we need an origin story to Willy Wonka?
Did we need Willy Wonka Begins?
I don't think we needed Willy Wonka Begins at all. It didn't add anything to what we already know about this character. The way he was portrayed, and this goes to the script level, not necessarily the way Chalamet played the character. He was just written in a way where he starts off as this optimistic, naive character, and that's where he is at the end. Like
There's like virtually no
there's-
change with him, no
there's
character arc whatsoever.
yeah, they introduced some like little minor
Yeah.
story arcs for him, some shit with his mom and stuff.
Yeah, but the point is that we're led to believe that he starts there and he's supposed to become Gene Wilder.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't buy that.
Not a chance.
I don't see how this character ends up becoming the dark, sarcastic, and crazy guy that Gene Wilder is.
Who takes them through acid trip tunnels? Yeah, I can't
Acid
see.
trip boat tunnels.
I can't see Timothy Chalamet's Willy Wonka doing that.
No, not at all. And getting to Chalamet, like portraying Wonka. Now he's a fine actor.
So hot right now.
I have no problem with him as an actor, but I just don't get why he was cast to play this character. He wasn't given anything unique to work with, so he played the character pretty bland. Like there's nothing he adds to it that makes it interesting or unique, and you know, a lot of that is at the script level. Even if they had cast someone who fit the bill better, like that dude you mentioned from The Bear, that show,
Yeah,
the guy
you
who
know.
actually looks like Gene Wilder,
Yeah, the guy that
the jacked.
he looks like a roided up young Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
And plus, that guy would have just probably brought like you know,
A little more gravity to
it just made him a little bit more weird.
yeah,
a little bit more interesting.
weird. Yeah, which is Wonka is a weird dude.
Yeah, and Timothy Chalamet does not
He
play...
doesn't play him weird at all.
He plays up like the whimsical aspect of the character.
Yeah, whimsical, but like not in any kind of crazy way. He's just this like happy-go-lucky guy,
Yeah.
which was very weird. Mm-hmm. Not seeing him play it weirder, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, he's a good actor, but I'm gonna make the Batman comparison. So Robert Pattinson in the Batman, yeah, fuck that.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I know it's kind of a controversial opinion that I hold, but you know, everyone's like, oh, you just don't like him because of Twilight. No, I can get past Twilight. That's not the problem. I do think he's a good actor. He's proved himself many times since
He's
Twilight.
been in a lot of movies.
But that does not mean that you're right. Just because you're a good actor does not mean you're right to play certain characters.
Yeah.
And that's how it is with Robert Pattinson as Batman, and that's how it is with Timothy Chalamet as Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
He just wasn't right for it.
Wasn't buying it at all.
No.
And then, you know, back to the character, the writing level of it, he barely changes at all. And they try to like dive even deeper into his past, like by introducing his mom, who he lives on like a boat with. She's like a traveling gypsy. I don't know what the hell she is, but all they really give you is one scene with her, and she's like making chocolate for him and never gets a chance to tell him the secret of like what makes the best chocolate in the world. And you don't really get much out of that interaction. Like you think like, oh, maybe this will be something that they can introduce that'll give the character a little more depth to like see where he goes to get him into like Gene Wilder's shoes. They don't do anything with
No,
it.
that's a very surface level arc.
It's so surface level. The whole movie's surface level.
Yeah.
When the character shows up, he's been traveling the world for 7 years at this point, learning all the tricks and secrets to become the best chocolatier in the world.
Which that in itself would have been a better story than what we got.
That could have been your own movie, even
that
though
still probably would have sucked.
Right.
But it would have been better than what we got.
Right, because when he shows up in the beginning, he's already like a master at it. So all he has to do is just give people his chocolates, which leads us into the plot. So he shows up to open up his shop after traveling the world for 7 years, and the second he tries to get his chocolates out there and get the crowds, he gets shut down by the big bad chocolate cartel, which is made up of the 3 big chocolatiers who were in the book, you know, including Slugworth himself. So they all conspire to just take him out. So he gets prevented from selling his chocolate. So he's trying to figure out a way now where he can like secretly get his chocolate out to people to get the buzz going, and then get big enough where he can open his own store and then they can't stop him.
Yeah.
And then there's like this subplot where he goes to stay at this, I don't know what it is, some kind of hotel, whatever the hell it is. And he can't pay his bill, so they basically sign him into indentured servitude.
Right, and there's the fine print that he's signing his life
which
away
is a
to
little
them.
throwback to the original movie, which introduces another aspect of him not being able to read, which is weird. And then he ends up now having to pay off his debt in this place, and that's where we get introduced to all these side characters who are just painfully boring and uninteresting. And then we get introduced to the little girl, Noodle, who becomes his sidekick the whole film. And I say sidekick loosely because she's the actual brains of the operation,
which is an actual line
which
from
is
the
what
film.
they say.
But she's a little no nonsense, smart, black girl. Mm-hmm. So of course she's going to be smarter than Willy Wonka.
And now she's like the epitome of orphan, yet she knows how to read, and she teaches him to read. Yeah, so he teams up with this whole group of misfits who are all like indentured servants to try and get his whole chocolate business off the ground. And then of course he has to go up against the cartel members, and it's fucking nonsense. And he of course wins the day, and they all get dispersed, and he becomes the Willy Wonka we know and love, which he doesn't though.
Yeah.
Like he's still like this just bright-eyed, optimistic Timothy Chalamet who resembles Gene Wilder in no way.
So part of what makes the original so great is, yeah, it's like a fantasy, but before they go to the chocolate factory, yeah, there's some musical numbers, but it still does feel like it's grounded in somewhat of a practical reality.
Yeah.
Right? It's only when they get into the chocolate factory that the magic happens, so to speak.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
This movie, once he shows up on the streets of France, starts selling his fucking candy, like weird shit's happening. People start flying and stuff, and everyone's just sort of nonchalant
goes with
about
it.
that.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Everyone's
it doesn't,
like, ooh,
Nothing to see here. Just a small group of people defying the laws of gravity.
But I'm like, when did fucking Willy Wonka turn into Harry Potter? There's
yeah,
this magic
and that was
going
like
on?
this whole undertone of like his character throughout this film, which was kind of different from, especially how he's portrayed in the original movie, where Wonka was kind of like a mad scientist.
Yeah.
And it was very, even though it was fantastical, a lot of it was still rooted in just crazy science. He wasn't like fucking Harry Potter doing like crazy magic.
No, he's got like actual potions and stuff.
Yeah, he's like pulling shit out of his hat like he's Mary Poppins.
I'm Mary Poppins, y'all.
Yeah.
It's like, what is he? Is he like some kind of magical being now? In the original, he's creating things, he's inventing things. And you get like a little bit of that in this, like when he creates that stupid like washing machine thing, which was just... But the rest of the time, he's basically like Harry Potter.
Yeah,
so
they made this for the Harry Potter audience.
Right,
because that's
right. Because the modern audience now, that's what they want to see. They're more
that's
they're
what
more
they
into
think
the,
they want to see.
They're more into the magic shit than they are into the mad scientist type stuff. So there was just some weird shit they did with his character, and then all these like little forgettable side characters. Now the one side character, and he only had like 3 scenes in the movie, who was worth showing up for was Hugh Grant.
Yeah, now, just based on the trailers, I thought, just look at him, fucking creepy, weird, shitty CGI, shitty shrinking him down, making his face orange, you know, dude, that trailer turned me off so much because he just looked so fucking stupid. And in the movie, he does look terrible. He looks dumb. But, that being said, Hugh Grant was the best part of the movie.
Because Hugh Grant is a professional.
Yes.
And that guy brings 110%
He
to
does.
his roles. Now, even though he's only in a few scenes, the scenes he was in, those scenes were good. Mm-hmm. Like, he plays the character well, I mean, as well as it's written.
He's got that very droll British
Yes, and he's
aristocrat.
perfect in it. And
he's great.
What's funny is he did an interview. He was saying that, like, now, at this stage in his career, like they just come to him and say like, oh, can you play like you can play this pedophile, can you play this junkie, can you play this Oompa Loompa? And he's like, oh, I guess so, yeah, sure, whatever, I gotta get a paycheck.
Oh, yes, I think so. They know that I'm into the freak show stage of my career now. It's all I can get.
It's definitely a paycheck movie for him.
Yeah.
But that being said, he's a professional, so he gives it his all.
Of course.
And he does a great job.
Yeah.
But
he's just not enough to...
It's not enough.
Put people
and
in
it looked
seats.
stupid. It looked terrible. Those effects were god-awful. You almost kind of felt embarrassed for him. But he does such a good job with the performance that
I mean, I'm sure he felt embarrassed after he watched the movie and was like, shit. But he's at that stage.
his bank account, though, is...
His bank account's like, he lived a lot of life, so he's got to replenish.
Yes.
You know? Outside of Hugh Grant, I mean, there's really nobody in the movie that grabs you like he does. In no way. Like, you got a couple, like, little cameos here and there, like Rowan Atkinson is like, you know, he shows up as a priest or something. He's got like 1 or 2 scenes, you know. He's fine, but it's whatever.
Right, it's funny. It's always good to see Mr. Bean.
I love seeing Mr. Bean.
Yeah.
You know, and that, like, from a filmmaking standpoint, the actual visual look of the film was just kind of like...
No, that's also one of my issues. Like, first of all, it just has this very bland modern day movie look to it. But you know, you're setting a movie that's supposed to be in a universe. You know, like you look at Blade Runner, then you look at Blade Runner 2049.
Right.
And you know, obviously that movie was made 40 years later, but it very much feels like it's part of that same world. Whereas this movie, 2 completely separate worlds.
They don't feel like they're connected at all.
Not at all.
Now, I know, I mean, obviously, like, the 1971 film with Gene Wilder, like, it very much feels like of its time, like in terms of its look. Like it
Absolutely.
feels like an early 70s movie.
Well, I mean,
now,
yeah.
but that doesn't mean that the new one's got to look like it's set in the 70s.
But I think that's also kind of part of the fun when you do a legacy sequel
Yeah.
or prequel, is you try to kind of match
right.
the
You're
aesthetic.
still going to get that modern look, but
Yeah.
they still could have made it feel like it's leading up to that.
Yes.
You know, and
that's my
this
point.
just
It's a
felt
missed
like it was so
opportunity.
much more advanced
Yeah.
in terms of like its aesthetic
Yes.
that it didn't jive at all.
It had that
and like
it had that overtly designed look that modern movies have.
Right,
Whereas
right.
the original is a little rough around the edges.
right. And speaking of not jiving, when you get the music that is just so subpar, you're sitting through this film for almost 2 hours, and then you get to the final scene where he starts singing Pure Imagination. In a weird scene that it didn't really fit with what he was actually looking at
made
or
no
where he
sense.
was. It didn't make any sense. I was so annoyed just because of how iconic that is, and now he's singing it, and it just felt so out of place in this movie because you're like, oh yeah, this is what good writing
Yeah.
and lyrics with music sounds like.
You've heard all these terrible fucking songs
Yeah.
up to that point, and you're like, whoa, a good song.
Oh, wow,
What's
yeah.
this doing in here? And then it's also like, fuck you guys for putting that song in the movie.
Yeah,
You guys
you-
did not earn that shit.
You didn't earn it at all, and
Yeah.
you can't stand alone. So you're gonna use that song as if like that's just the song he sings all the time, as opposed to that just happened to be the most popular song from the original film. That's the one song he sings in the movie. Basically, he's got a few like other moments where he sings a little bit, but you know, like the songs that should carry over, if anything's going to carry over, are like the Oompa Loompa songs, because those are like the interlude songs that pop up like all
Sure.
the time when
Yeah.
they're teaching their little lessons and stuff. And of course you get a little of that with Hugh Grant, but everything else just trash. Like nothing in this movie can stand on its own. This is not going to be a classic, and anyone who says it's going to be a classic doesn't know shit about.
No, this
What's
will be
good and what's
forgotten
not.
so fast.
Oh, it's hard to gauge like who the specific audience for this movie is. I mean, yeah, it's a PG movie. It's geared at kids, I guess, but it wasn't really that like funny, or like the kids that we were with in the theater that were sitting around us.
seemed
like,
bored.
They seemed bored.
Yeah.
And then you've got the older crowd who was in the theater with us, like older than us, like people who
Yeah.
watched the original movie when it came out.
Borderline boomers. Were in
Borderline
there.
boomers, and even they seemed bored. Like maybe a couple chuckles here and there. So the fact that this movie's coming out around Christmas, like I think it will make its money back, but just barely, because there's not much playing right now that is just pure like for kids.
You got a point.
But
the movie, I feel, has a lackluster marketing campaign behind it.
yeah, and I don't think many people are going to be like word of mouth recommending this.
That's where I was going with this.
Yeah.
Like, it's not good. So, or at least not good enough to recommend to people. You know. So I
Right.
don't know. Like I don't know if it's going to be a huge success, but it might break even.
I don't know. I think people are going to go out of their way to like praise Chalamet, and I don't really know why, because it's such a lackluster performance. And I'm not taking a dig at him, I'm taking a dig at just how the character was written and that he was just not the right choice.
Yes, exactly. They chose him to
So-
do it, so it's not his fault.
Yeah. I mean, the charm of the original movie is that it appeals to both kids and adults.
Right.
Like there's something for everybody in that movie.
Yeah, there's some like little subtle adult humor in it.
Oh,
Plus, they
there's-
go through the fucking tunnel.
They go
and-
through the crazy boat tunnel.
Yeah, the acid trip.
The acid trip tunnel.
Yeah.
Like there's so much good stuff in there. And Wonka is such a troll in that movie.
Don't just stand there, do something!
Help. Police. Murder.
He's fantastic. And you don't get any of that in this. So they went pure like, no, this is just like a good vibes movie for like 6-year-olds.
No, what happened is
That's what it felt
Warner
like.
Brothers is like, holy shit, Harry Potter ended. The Fantastic Beasts movies aren't doing very well. Ooh, what can we do?
Yeah.
So they went in the catalog and they thought, oh well, this is something that we can like make our new
I think-
whimsical, magical.
Enough time has passed that everyone has forgotten now that Johnny Depp turned Wonka into a pedo. So
Yeah.
we can dust that character off again, I guess.
What a perv.
And as terrible as that movie is, I'd rather watch that than this piece of shit.
That's so sad.
And fuck both those movies.
Yeah.
The Tim Burton movie is.
It's borderline unwatchable for me.
Oh, it's trash. It's so terrible.
Yeah.
That is like peak modern day Tim Burton.
Yeah.
You know?
It's worthless.
Sucked.
Yeah.
But still, at least there's no shitty songs in it. So I'd rather muscle through that one than...
There is that. I know how much you disliked this going in, but I think ranking-wise, we might be closer than you think.
Well, yeah, I mean, like when we left the theater yesterday, you were like, fuck this movie, like you're shitting on it.
I was hating on it hard.
You said you were going to give it a certain low rating, and for me...
it was lower than you.
This movie, yeah, this movie's getting a low rating. I fucking hated this movie. But I always say, and I've said this in other videos before, to get a review like that's below a 3 for me, you got to be like that's like amateur level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And as much as I did not like the aesthetic of the film, there's no denying that there was some craftsmanship that went into it.
Sure.
Like the people that made the film hit all the right T-stops. You know, like,
hit all the right T-stops.
they were competent at their job. So,
right.
You know, to me, it doesn't borderline into amateur territory.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I'm going to give this the lowest that it'll go before getting into that territory. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 10.
Yeah. Okay, I'm with you on that. Last night, like you said, I was really angry, and I was like in a 2 territory.
Yeah,
But you know,
fuck this movie. This is going to give it a 2 out of 10.
I slept on it, and there were some things that I acknowledged that brought it up to a 3. We're the same on that one. So on the other scale, the agenda scale, there was some stuff in there that was some obvious stuff and then some not so obvious stuff.
Right.
But it was there. For you, I know.
Mostly it comes down to the Netflix mode of casting, where obviously it's my diversity is our strength.
Yes,
casting.
there was a lot of that going on.
They race swapped Slugworth, I guess. They never showed Slugworth in the original, technically.
Yeah, it was
right.
Wonka's like assistant pretending to be Slugworth.
Right. So
but
all we
they
know-
never mention
Right.
his race or anything.
So for all we know, maybe he really was a black guy. Fine, whatever. That guy, like, he was okay in the role, but you know, he wore a nice suit. He was like really kept, you know. And then of course the 2 other drug cartel members were these like really weirdo fucking white dudes.
Yeah.
That were like, one was a serial killer and the other was like a child diddler. You know what I mean? Had like
They
a
look
fucking
like-
bowl cut, you know?
Yeah, they had like a
that
weird like
comb-over bowl cut thing.
comb over cut with the glasses, a little tight mustache.
Yeah.
Like he just looked like this guy's got some shit on his computer. Like
exactly, yeah.
that's
So of course Slugworth was like well put together, but the 2 white dudes had to be like fucking weirdos.
They
you
were
know?
weirdos, subordinates, even though they were like all in it together. He was like the top guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, right.
So, you know, was it as bad as it could have gone? No, there was no like trans bullshit in it. There was no like LGBTQ stuff.
I don't know.
in it.
I felt like it was going to go a lot further with some of that stuff, and it didn't.
No, it didn't. But
for me, it was
yeah.
like it was actually stupid shit, like economic shit, where he comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, like he wants to sell his chocolate, so it's like so affordable that like anybody can buy it." Like they're selling their chocolate bars. The cartel are selling like chocolate bars for like fucking $50 a bar, something stupid. It's like, okay, he already makes the best chocolate in the world, and he's gonna come in and undercut the entire market. Like, what kind of business strategy is that? He's gonna sell his candy bars for like a fucking nickel. He would literally put every chocolatier out of business in the world, and he wouldn't be able to sustain his business. He doesn't come from some kind of rich background.
You're looking at this way too much.
Oh no! I know. I already
conservative-minded.
know I'm going too conservative-minded into this from an economic standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely not. That
This
is not
was-
how that would work.
This
But
was a fantastic liberal idea about
just
chocolate
oh,
for
you have
everybody.
a business. You have a business and employ
Right.
lots of people. Just give your product away for
Right.
free.
It's like the,
so the poorest people, because the greedy always beat the needy.
socialist candy shop. Yeah,
Right.
That's the line
Like
in the
that
movie.
fucking coffee shop that was like a socialist coffee shop. You
Oh,
remember that
yeah,
shit?
that's right,
Yeah,
yeah.
then they went out of business
That's what
because they
we're-
realized they had to like charge money to
Right.
keep a business running unless you're independently wealthy. Yeah, there was a lot of shit like that that was just, you know, undertones in the movie that kind of just got under my skin. And then of course the scene we both laughed at, it was like probably the only scene we laughed at, was when that beta cuck proposed to the girl. And she was like, "Listen, I'm looking for a life of adventure, so like, I don't think you're for me."
Total beta, straight white male, getting down on his knee like an asshole.
Getting down on his knee makes him an asshole.
This guy, yes.
Yeah, this particular guy, yes.
Because if he wasn't such a fucking beta, he'd already know that she'd be like, no.
Yeah.
But he still does it anyways.
Yeah, he still asks
like
her
a
even
white
though
knight
yeah,
cuck.
thinks she's gonna say yes.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's some stuff peppered here and there. It wasn't as overt as I thought it was going to be, but there's still some stuff there, just not as
The
as
Netflix
obvious.
casting really annoyed me.
That bothered you a lot, yeah.
That brought it up for me because I hate seeing these movies where it's like you're supposed to be transported to another time, but yet it's got modern sensibilities into it.
Yeah, another time and place, fantastical world.
Yes.
Yet, like,
then it rips you right out of it. It's like you want me to believe that this takes place during a certain time, but clearly it doesn't because
Right.
of your weirdo fucking
Whatever's
social
going on.
engineering casting choices. That you're making.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was around a 3.
I'm gonna go 3.5.
Yeah. Okay.
Close, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
bothered
yeah.
me a little bit more than it bothered you, I think.
Well, we can't recommend it. I hope nobody watches this movie. It was atrocious.
It's an abomination.
Yeah.
It's a piece
it
of shit.
just it makes me want to go watch the original 4K Blu-ray.
I own it.
Of course you do.
Haven't watched it yet, but I own it.
I gotta pick it up.
I'm gonna watch it now. Honestly, I'm gonna watch it now.
It's fantastic. Just go and watch that one.